On today's episode of PJ and the Beard, we're going to do a special edition with a friend here in the studio. But before we get into that, I'd like to ask you to consider subscribing to the channel, click on the notification bell. Your interaction with us helps us interact with great people in the industry. And in this case, we're going to the community again. We have a special guest here in the studio today. And the Beard's going to tell you a little bit about who it is and what we're doing.
So look, I've run into some problems from time to time. And so one guy I know I can always send a message to and get help with is Ben Bollinger from 6 Bar Break. So he's here tonight to help me with something. But I was kind of like, well, if you're going to help me, we need to record some stuff, right? So he brought a couple pedals. We grabbed a couple pedals off the wall that we thought he might like and let him kind of run through the pedals. And so we're going to start off by bringing Brent on and just running through a bunch of fuzzes and drives and things that get loud. Yes. So here's Ben. Ben's on the show. Ben, I have 2 quick questions for you before we start diving into clips and the pedals that you played. What guitar did you bring? What you use? And what's the band?
You got it, man. All of the guitars in my stable right now, on our records especially, our PRS. This one is a semi-hollow custom 22. It has done me a great deal of work over the last 5 years. As far as the band, 6 Bar Break itself has been together for 10 years this year, 2024. So we're excited. We're in the studio working on an album, and it'll be our 5th studio album in the last 10 years. So it should be great.
And tons of clips of acoustic performances, live performances, like...
You got it. 6 Bar Break. Yeah. We're always out in the industry, out doing gigs anywhere in the tri-state area. But even if you can't make it to a gig, we make sure to record everything and release it to our fans every week. So Mondays and Fridays at 10 a.m., you can always catch a new clip of one of our live gigs. And if you can't make it in person, come out to the next one.
So where do they go? Online.
6barbreak.com is the repository for everything, right? No matter where you are, you can always find our social media there. You can find our Spotify there, our merch there, all of our tour dates there, and even our mailing list. So if you hit up 6barbreak.com, you just got to spell it out, 6 Bar Break. And if you want to look on any of your favorite social media or your favorite streaming media services, we're on all of those too. We're always at 6 Bar Break.
Ben does a killer job promoting the band.
Thank you, man.
This is killer. So, getting into this, and I had something else I wanted to ask you that popped up and it just slipped my mind. So we're just going to go with it. We pulled out a bunch of pedals, turned on the Tyler JT22. We should ask him. What'd you think of the Tyler?
It was amazing. I would take it out on any gig for sure.
All right. So there's the Tyler DLS Echo Tour, always on. So first pedal, you brought it over. What is it?
This one is the wonderful Fuzz Lands. And it's amazing. So it's my favorite fuzz all around. All of the switches can take you anywhere from just barely cracking up, just a little bit of fuzz, like a good fuzz face, all the way up to like Velcro, splattery, and everywhere in between. It does amazing with rolling back on the volume to tame the fuzz, but it has good sounds on every pickup combination, single coil and humbuckers, and it's on my touring board.
So he did 2 clips. First clip, I believe, was Strange Love from our first album. And that one is a pretty heavy riff that has the open D string playing a big part in it. And I really think that makes a difference when the whole band is inside it too, right? You have not only the guitar thumping on a string the whole time, but the bass pulling those two together. And because the fuzz really sticks out into the mix, it makes it feel like the whole song sticks together. I really think so. Here's a clip. was kind of more of a spitty fuzz. Would you change second clip? Tell us about that one quick.
You got it. So the second clip, all I really changed was whether or not we've engaged a gate on this last toggle. And to really show that off, I played one of our songs from our upcoming 2025 album called Let the Bridges Burn, which is very single noteworthy and just has a lot of finger picking and single note runs that really make that sort of fuzz stand out.
All right, we're back, and I'm sitting on the wrong side. Very confusing to me. But part of what we did when Ben came here was what looked on the shelf and what do we have? And we have some fuzzes there. And so we had the Analog Man Astro Tone, and we asked him to plug into it. And he played a song with Jesse James.
You got it, man. And I picked that one because the Astro Tone, I felt, really had an overtone to it that led to being on a song that used the capo, right? So I pulled the capo up to the 7th fret for Jesse James, and it felt like all of those harmonics really rung out because of it.
I agree. He's going to play it now and see if you agree as well. All right, so moving back to the stash that Ben brought with him, it is the Dirty Haggard Audio, right? Dirty Haggard.
You got it, man.
3904 is a really cool looking pedal. I wasn't sure if this was circuitry on the outside or like puka shells or whatever. It is a one knob wonder. And why don't you tell them how you approached it and what song you played on that one?
You got it, man. So that one is something I found from Dirty Haggard as being their sort of entry-level fuzz. But I just sort of fell in love with it, right? The spittiness of it is there if your volume is all the way up and pulled back. It's, again, very harmonically rich. And I wanted to make sure that those notes really stood out. So we did one of the new songs from our upcoming album called Any Given Night.
And here it is.
So you absolutely know I'm not going to have Ben come over, pull a bunch of pedals off the wall and be like, hey, try these out without pulling a Barber Electronics pedal off. So pulled off for him one that's been kind of intriguing me a lot lately, the Exacta Fuzz.
Man, I was actually really into this one. I had never heard the Exacta before, but it just gave me those like old school Delta blues fuzz vibes. And there's always a song that we play for people in the military, our friends and family. Every gig, we always played Soldier's Call, and it was giving me those sort of old school ZZ Top, Leonard Skinner vibe. So I played that on.
One thing I got to point out, when I was sitting over there when he was kind of dialing it in, every time he flipped one of these toggle switches, you could be like, oh, that's different. Oh, that's different. Like, they do something.
Oh, yeah. I 100% agree. They were all different sounds.
You said something about the tone knob, I think, too.
Yeah. And I thought on that one, the tone was super versatile, right? That it went from anything that you could use on humbuckers all the way up to single coils and beyond. That if you needed a sound that really stuck out, it could. Or if you needed it to fit inside a recording, it could, too.
Here it is, the Exacta Fuzz. Funny story. The first time I met Ben he was selling a Crazy Tube Circuit Falcon on Facebook Marketplace. We met at like Panera Bread. I bought the pedal for him, and that was the beginning of a friendship. A gear nerd. Yeah, like both big gear nerds.
I agree.
That was the beginning of that. So when he came over, I was like, hey, on the wall, I have the LPD 55, which is kind of that tweed style pedal. So I was like, yeah, plug into that and see if you like it. And of course, it was like all of these, I should point out, we were like, don't have to record them if you don't like them. Luckily, I think we didn't call any bad ones.
I agree. They all really fit. And I hadn't gotten a chance to play any of the LPD pedals before. I'm already on their mailing list. I'm like watching over them all the time. So I'm glad that was the first one, man. It was awesome. Yeah. I pulled the gain back on it a little bit, did some finger picking, and I really felt like I was into it.
And this is one of your songs too.
Yep. Yeah, I think that one was Coming Home.
I jumped back in here because we recently got in all of the Keeley 4-in-1 pedals, and Ben had not had an opportunity to really play any of those yet. And with his style of playing, we thought we'd grab the Angry Orange. Not even on the shelf. I think it was on the pedal board sitting here. And he chose the muff side for the tone and the DS on the drive side. And I don't know if you want to give any first impressions of this pedal.
So on the last album that we recorded, I spent a ton of time with a vintage DS1. So I was super familiar with DS1 before we started, especially the vintage ones. So that immediately jumped out, right? As soon as I started playing on it, it had that very specific DS1 feel, and you felt like it would fit in any recording. But along with that, being able to flip to the muff tone made a huge difference, right? Instead of having a very high peak, I felt like it smoothed it way out, but still, just made itself known. And we did a song from the last album as well called Mother Daughter Dance.
There it is. So sticking with the 4-in-1 pedal, I grabbed the Noble Screamer, and I grabbed it for, in part, a reason, because one of the other interactions with you was we bought the Nordland from you, which I still don't know if we shot a video on that. I think I absconded that pedal immediately and took it over to the church, and it's been on my board or in my area the whole time. But you mentioned that you like ODR ones, and so we got out the Noble Screamer, and you exclusively use the ODR one side. So some thoughts about a guy who uses an ODR regularly and one of the newer ones. You seem pretty happy with what you dialed up.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes I think the difference between the ODR ones is in the bass response, right? Because the older ones didn't have any way to pick how much bass you had. The newer ones have a toggle. The Nordland has a knob. But this one seemed like the perfect fit. Like the tone in it going into the Tyler felt like it would cut right through. It felt smooth. It responded to the guitar volume knob really well, and single coil versus humbucking pickups. I dig it. And we did one of the songs off the new album, God and Country, for that one.
All right. Here's your sneak preview.
So that's the clips we have for tonight. Thanks, Ben, for coming out and joining us. It was really fun to just throw pedals at him and let him play and dial things in and listen to what he was doing. So please go check out 6 Bar Break. The only thing that's disappointing to me here tonight is that the one PRS that's been out of my reach for a long time that I've wanted that I haven't got my hands on is a special. And he's going to take it. It's even in the right color. It's very disappointing. Any final thoughts on here?
No, this was great because whenever you interacted with Ben, the last time I wasn't around, so the first time I got to meet Ben, I get to sit in a different chair. I get to sit in like a lounge chair and listen. It was amazing to watch him, first of all, just dial up pedals really quickly. And it landed, it was him dialing it, but it landed where my ears like, oh, that sounds right. And every time he dialed up the pedal, even when he'd never touched before. And then he played with such conviction, right? He played music he wrote. The use of the capo was interesting. It changed the harmonics on the guitar. It was just a really amazing experience, and I'm glad he came. And we got to hear some new stuff. And hopefully, like Jason said, you go check out his band and follow him on social media. It was a great, not the worst way to spend an afternoon.
Nah,
so
totally great. With that, hey, thanks for watching. Hopefully, we'll have Ben back in the future. If you're hitting that subscribe button, click the notification bell, leaving comments, all that stuff. That's what helps us keep doing this and bring cool stuff to share with you. So we appreciate that. And with that,
I'm PJ on behalf of the Beard, reminding you, no matter what you hear, you never have too much gear.
How much? No.
Yeah, that's true.